끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea's stocks wiped off gains spurred by the short-selling ban just a day after they had their strongest rally since 2020. The benchmark Kospi fell 2.3%, while the tech-heavy Kosdaq plunge activated a trading halt. Seoul's defense ministry says South Korea and the U.S. have jointly sent warnings to North Korea 9 times this year, showing their nuclear deterrence capabilities. The report comes ahead of U.S. Defense Chief Lloyd Austin's visit to Seoul next week. South Korea received some $940 million in foreign direct investment commitments in high-tech industries, ranging from semiconductors to future cars. They were pledged in light of Invest Korea Summit 2023, the country's largest foreign direct investment promoting event. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. South Korean stocks had their greatest performance since 2020 yesterday, triggered by the full ban on short selling. But today, the gains led by shorted stocks were gone. The benchmark Kospi lost more than 2%, while trading on the Kosdaq like yesterday had to be halted, but this time because of a sharp fall. Our finance correspondent Yoon leads us off.
Stock markets here, which has surged significantly on Monday, lost momentum in just a single day. According to the Korea Exchange on Tuesday, South Korea's benchmark index, the Kospi, dropped 2.33%, while the secondary Kosdaq market closed down 1.8%. This comes after a massive rally the previous day, which marked the first day of a complete ban on short selling. The decline was attributed to a drop in battery stocks and a shift among foreign investors into net sellers. During the session, trading on the tech-heavy Kosdaq had to be halted for a moment in the morning due to a different reason from the day before. According to the Korea Exchange, a sidecar curve was activated at 11:48 a.m. for 5 minutes when the Kosdaq 150 futures dropped more than 6% from its previous close, with the Kosdaq 150 index plunging about 3%. The sidecar limit is to mitigate volatility in stock markets and comes into play when the Kosdaq 150 futures fluctuates by more than 6% or when the Kosdaq 150 index moves more than 3%. This is in contrast to the previous day when the Kosdaq index rose sharply, triggering the activation of the sidecar curve for the first time in almost 3.5 years. Regarding the ban on the short selling of stock, Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho said the same day that it was a necessary measure for now. He added that the government will continue with reform measures to win developed market status from Morgan Stanley Capital International. There has been rising concern over the ban as it is a key factor for MSCI to upgrade South Korea's status. Some experts believe that the momentum of short covering or buying back the borrowed shares in order to return them to the lender may have been exhausted. 신하영, Arirang News.
The latest data shows signs that South Korea's economic slowdown is easing, thanks in part to semiconductors. Concerns remain, however, over high oil prices and interest rates globally. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
South Korea's economy is showing signs of moderate recovery in certain areas. According to a monthly report released by the Korea Development Institute on Tuesday, the ease in the slowdown of the economy was mostly driven by the rise in production across various industries. Overall production increased by 2.8% on year in September, higher than the 1.3% from a month earlier. Growth was seen in industrial production on the back of a recovery in semiconductor demand, with chip production surging 23.7% on year in September, compared to 8.4% the previous month. While service production showed a slowdown compared to the previous year due to the base effect, it saw a moderate increase of 0.4% from the month before due to the rise in demand for travel. Production in construction also showed continued growth. Meanwhile, exports showed a slight recovery on the back of increased exports to the U.S. Exports to the U.S. in October rose sharply by more than 17% from the previous year, but exports to China fell 9.5%. Vehicle exports maintained robust growth in October, and semiconductor exports showed signs of recovery. The increase in imports was mostly led by the rise in crude oil imports. Overall, the trade balance in October recorded a surplus of $1.64 billion. However, external factors continue to weigh on the South Korean economy as the global economy grapples with uncertainties such as monetary policy tightening and the Israel-Hamas conflict. Growing geopolitical tensions have fueled volatility in oil prices, and the continued high interest rates in major economies has led to subdued business sentiment. 이수진, Arirang News.
South Korea's shipbuilding industry reclaimed top spot in global ship orders in October, overtaking China after 3 months behind. According to Clarkson's research, a maritime and shipping research company on Tuesday, Seoul recorded 1.5 million compensated gross tons that accounted for 62% of the total global orders last month. This was followed by Beijing with 820,000, which accounted for 33%. An industry official says although China built 16 more ships than Korea during the same month, Korea was able to rank first place as it focused on vessels of high value. Shifting gears, the weather is getting chilly. And with prices of many items going up, so are the prices of popular winter street food, including famous fish-shaped pastry 붕어빵, which is often considered as one of affordable snacks here in Korea. Yoon has the story.
붕어빵 has long been a favorite winter street food in South Korea. The fish-shaped pastry is filled with red bean paste or sugary custard. But the jump in price of this beloved snack shows the reality of the increase in consumer prices. Last winter, customers could get 2 pieces of 붕어빵 for 1,000 won, or roughly 80 cents. But this year, street vendors have prepared signs that read 3 for 2,000 won, roughly $1.50. And in some popular areas, customers will be paying 1,000 won for 1 piece.
It used to be a go-to snack when I have 2,000 won left in my wallet, but I don't think that's possible anymore.
I remember it being 3 pieces for 1,000 won when I was young. If it's 1,000 won for 1 piece, maybe people who really like it will still buy it, but I don't think I will.
What's contributed to the hike in prices of this winter street food is the increase in general prices, from ingredients to fuel costs. The wholesale price of the red bean paste has increased by 33% from previous years. And the prolonged impact of the Russia-Ukraine war is keeping prices of key ingredients very high. Compared to before the war, the price of flour has jumped 36%, sugar 34%, and milk 17%. The jump in consumer prices has shocked customers into eating out less, as it affected everyday go-to foods like fried chicken and black bean noodles. But with no sign of inflation easing, people are now hesitant to enjoy winter street snacks as well. Ian-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea has secured hundreds of millions of dollars in foreign direct investment commitments in high-tech industries, ranging from semiconductors to future cars. They were pledged in light of Invest Korea Summit 2023, the country's largest foreign direct investment promoting event held in Busan this year. Our correspondent An Sung-jin was there.
Invest Korea Summit 2023, which nearly 1,000 foreign investors, domestic and overseas companies, and government officials attended, is the largest domestic event promoting foreign investment. Through the summit on Tuesday, the Trade Ministry announced that nearly $950 million worth of foreign direct investment has been pledged to the high-tech industry, particularly in the field of carbon neutrality, quantum computing, future cars, and semiconductors. Despite reduced global investment due to economic uncertainty, South Korea has reached its highest ever aggregate foreign direct investment this year, up to September, of approximately 31 trillion won, or $24 billion. It also saw an on-year increase of 37.5% of large quantity investments, where more than $300 million were traded. As South Korea garners attention as a hub for the energy and semiconductor industries, the country will continue to see a growing amount of foreign direct investment. Two foreign investors, one of whom secured a deal with a Korean company, suggested potential favorable aspects that make Korea a destination for investors.
Korea is a very attractive market. It's a very outgoing and also technology-guided semiconductor and biotechnology or pharma and such kind of things is definitely a future market.
We recognize the strength and reliability of Korean energy off-takers as customers, but also as really equity partners in our overall energy developments. It also is the commitment by Korean companies to also be very front-footed in the development and rollout and application of the new clean energy technologies.
Apart from the perspective of foreign investors, Trade Minister Park Geun-hye said there are other aspects that mark Korea as an attractive market.
A high level of industrial competitiveness, innovation capacity, and an FTA agreement network are the nation's key strengths for foreign direct investment.
Minister Park also emphasized the role of foreign direct investment companies in Korea's move towards becoming a high-tech industry powerhouse. He also added that government supports these efforts, such as expanding the global supply chain, securing manufacturing capability, and strengthening the technology innovation ecosystem will be necessary. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Busan.
After wrapping up his schedule in Daegu, President Yoon Suk-yeol took the time to visit former President Park Geun-hye at her home in the city's Dalseong-gun County. Tuesday's meeting came less than 2 weeks since they saw each other at a memorial ceremony for Park's father, Park Geun-hye, also a former president. Speaking over tea and fruit for about an hour, the two exchanged words on their terms as president, with President Yoon praising her father for his work in industrializing South Korea. In addition, Park empathized with President Yoon's busy overseas schedule and shared words of encouragement. Amid evolving threats from North Korea, South Korea says it has strengthened extended deterrence against the regime this year by cooperating with the U.S. From joint exercises involving strategic bombers to the deployment of a U.S. ballistic missile submarine, the two countries have sent warnings to the North multiple times as a show of force. Bae-eun-ji has the details.
South Korea and the U.S. have issued warnings to North Korea on 9 separate occasions so far this year, as they step up efforts to deter threats from Pyongyang. That's according to a report released by Seoul's Defense Ministry on Tuesday, which explained that U.S. forces stationed in South Korea and the deployment of U.S. strategic assets are a symbol of their extended deterrence against the North. On February 24th, South Korean and U.S. defense officials visited an American naval submarine base, Kings Bay, in Georgia. From March to July, the U.S. Air Force B-52 Stratofortress engaged in combined aerial training exercises 5 times this year. The ministry explained that the B-52 bomber played a key role in enhancing the regular visibility of U.S. strategic assets on the Korean Peninsula, as agreed by President Yoon Suk-yeol and U.S. President Joe Biden during their summit in April in Washington. Then in July, the U.S. Navy Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine, the USS Kentucky, visited Busan. A month after that, a B-52 bomber arrived at an airbase in Cheongju in a show of force against the North. This was the first time that the American strategic bomber had ever landed at a South Korean airbase. Lastly, South Korean and U.S. defense officials attended a test launch of Washington's Minuteman III ICBM in California last Wednesday. The Defense Ministry said this was the first time in 7 years and the second time ever that South Korean officials have attended an ICBM test launch by the U.S. Tuesday's report comes ahead of U.S. Defense Chief Lloyd Austin's visit to Seoul next week for an annual meeting with his South Korean counterpart, Shin Won-sik. Peunji, Arirang News.
South Korea is set to open new embassies or upgrade diplomatic offices in 12 countries next year as part of its efforts to expand its global network and enhance diplomatic functions. According to Seoul's Foreign Ministry on Tuesday, branch offices will be established in Botswana and Suriname, while new embassies will be established for other 10 countries. The existing branch offices in Jamaica and Georgia will be promoted to embassies. It marks a record high figure for Seoul, considering that it has opened 2 new diplomatic offices per year on average. This raises the total number of South Korean diplomatic offices around the globe to 177. So far, more than 10,000 Palestinians have been reportedly killed, and 1 child has been killed every 10 minutes because of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Gaza's health ministry said Monday that more than 10,000 Palestinians have been killed since the start of the armed conflict between Israel and Hamas. Among those killed, more than 4,100 are children. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called Gaza a graveyard for children, with the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency adding that 1 child has been killed every 10 minutes. The World Health Organization has also raised great concern over the health of pregnant women, new mothers, and infants in the Gaza Strip, where many hospitals and medical facilities have shut down due to ongoing airstrikes by Israel. According to the WHO, there are about 50,000 new mothers and pregnant women in the Gaza Strip, with more than 180 babies born every day. It added that 4,600 pregnant women and 380 newborns residing in refugee camps operated by the UN throughout Gaza need treatment. Meanwhile, Israeli forces advanced deeper into Gaza on Monday with more airstrikes overnight. Monday's airstrikes and ground attacks focused on the northern half of the Gaza Strip, where the Israel Defense Forces believe Hamas has most of its strongholds. On Sunday, the Israeli military struck over 450 Hamas targets while also taking control of a Hamas military compound. Within the compound were underground tunnels, observation points, and training facilities for Hamas fighters. Following a 2-day suspension, dozens of foreign passport holders, as well as some medical evacuees on Monday, passed through the Rafah crossing from Gaza into Egypt. According to the Gaza Border Authority, Egyptians and foreign citizens already on pre-approved lists issued since last week were allowed through. 80 dual nationals and 17 medical evacuees left Gaza through Rafah, with 48 aid trucks crossing in the other direction. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Israel-Hamas conflict, now 1 month since the October 7th attack, shows little signs of dialing down. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has once again made it clear that Israel opposes a ceasefire, as he discussed a tactical pause with U.S. President Joe Biden for humanitarian reasons. Yoon reports.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has so far made it clear that Israel will not support a ceasefire, rejecting U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's proposal last week for a humanitarian pause unless the hostages are released. On Monday, U.S. President Joe Biden and Netanyahu had talks over a so-called tactical pause for humanitarian reasons, as well as to try to secure the release of the hostages held by Hamas. The White House said that Biden and Netanyahu have agreed to continue their discussions in the coming days, with Reuters reporting that U.S. National Security Coordinator John Kirby said the conversation was at the beginning stage, not the end. Shortly after the U.S. once again pressured Israel for a humanitarian pause, Netanyahu, in an interview with ABC News, reaffirmed his rejection of holding a temporary pause in the Gaza Strip.
Well, there will be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before. I suppose we'll check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods to come in, or our hostages, individual hostages to leave.
Netanyahu also told ABC that he expects Israel will have the overall security responsibility in Gaza once the war ends. This statement followed anchor David Moore's question, addressing the earlier statement by President Biden, saying it would be a mistake for Israel to occupy Gaza and who should govern Gaza after the war is over.
I think Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have the overall security responsibility because we've seen what happens when we don't have it.
1 month into the Israel-Hamas battle, where does American leadership stand in terms of recent conflicts in Middle Eastern nations?
In my opinion, United States leaderships are somewhat working right now because that is the only reason that Israel started the low-profile military operation. The reason why Israel had started those kind of military tactic is because they really want to reduce the collateral damage and the civilian casualty, like United States requested.
However, the professor added that there are clear discrepancies between the Biden administration and the Israeli government in terms of post-war responsibilities. While Biden does not want an Israeli occupation of the Gaza Strip, it seems that Israel thinks that this is the only way to get rid of Hamas's forces and therefore will occupy the area at least temporarily. Yoon, Arirang News.
Drug scandals involving celebrities have been grabbing headlines in Korea these days. The nation was once known as drug-free, but now it seems to be grappling with the growing threat of drugs. As our Choi Soo-young reports, illegal substances coming from abroad have notably increased, and drug detection or sniffer dogs at airports are working tirelessly to combat this. She met with one such dog.
South Korea is facing an increasing illegal drug threat with a sharp rise in cases during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. This means that sniffer dogs at Incheon International Airport, which is on the country's front line, are also having busier days. They search around 1,000 items daily among the 600,000 pieces of cargo arriving at the airport's logistics center from abroad. These highly trained dogs can detect even tiny amounts of drugs as small as 0.1 of a gram from over 10 meters away.
We typically train them for 4 years. After qualifying in basic training, a select few undergo a 16-week specialized training program. From there, only a few of them become drug detection dogs deployed to work in ports and special cargo areas.
In 2020, sniffer dogs detected 3.4 kilograms of drugs, and this year, as of September, they have found 8.4 kilograms, primarily methamphetamine, also known as Philipon in South Korea. There are 94 drug detection dogs operated by customs inspectors, and out of these, 22 sniffers are actively working at Incheon Airport.
Here in South Korea, drug detection dogs currently used in operations are divided into 3 groups: dogs in training, ready for immediate deployment, and dogs awaiting retirement.
Handlers partner with sniffer dogs for about 5 years until the dogs retire at around 7 to 8 years old. Handlers also help find new homes for them after their retirement. Korea Customs Service dogs are mainly Labrador Retrievers and Spaniels, breeds known for their strong connection with humans, and these dogs find joy in their work and value their playtime with handlers as a reward.
In this era of pet dogs, people don't fear the animals usually, but some of them still freak out when they meet them at the airport. But detection dogs are gentle and friendly. If you encounter them at the airport, just step aside and wait for them to move, and your journey will be enjoyable with these friendly dogs around.
The KCS is considering ways to gradually increase the supply of sniffer dogs to further strengthen its drug prevention efforts. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Paper cups and plastic straws will continue to be available at restaurants and coffee shops in South Korea. Last November, the Environment Ministry announced that it was going to ban the use of them after a 1-year grace period. However, on Tuesday, the ministry said that it's made a U-turn, citing concerns about the financial burden on small businesses, such as hiring more staff or purchasing dishwashers. Also, the grace period for using plastic straws has been extended indefinitely. This is in response to the higher cost of paper straws and the negative feedback from customers when given as an alternative.
Moving on, the song 7 by BTS member Jungkook has gone platinum. This means that the Recording Industry Association of America, or the RIAA, has recognized that more than 1 million units of the song have been sold in the United States. One digital download or 150 audio or video streams is counted as a single unit. Last year, Jungkook's collaboration with American singer-songwriter Charlie Puth for the song Left and Right received the RIAA's gold certification, which marks over 500,000 units sold.
For central regions, cold wave advisories that were in place earlier have been lifted. As of 9 p.m. tonight, a new cold wave alert has been issued for Gyeongsangdo provinces. Cold mornings will continue for tomorrow, and temperatures will drop even further. Seoul will start off at 2 degrees Celsius, but temperatures will be in the negative territory. When frigid spells suddenly prevail, it's much easier to catch a cold. Please take extra care of your health at this time. Strong winds are in the forecast for the entire nation. Inland regions will see winds gusting as fast as 15 to 20 meters per second. Gusty winds are forecast to persist until tomorrow. In the regions, we'll see morning temperatures in single figures. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 2 degrees. Daytime highs will be jumping significantly, causing wide temperature gaps. Highs in Seoul will get up to 15 degrees, Gwangju 18, Busan and Jeju will be topping out at 19 degrees. This weekend, morning temperatures will plunge to 0 degrees Celsius in Seoul. It's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the most up-to-date news. Good night.
I'm live.
저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해줄 수 있는 세션분들
아무리 봐도 없지. 텐션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거.